Monday night, Krug show. Dieter's in the house. We got a lot to get to. Matt Barrows says expect another quiet free agent period. What? We got to get to that. We got to get to a lot more. Let's go. Off and running on the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out there in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Opening in Petaluma in 2026. Also, thanks to our good friends at Sleeper. Thanks to our friends at Habbas Law. We'll mention them all multiple times before we get out of here. We're getting ready to go to spring training on Thursday, off to Arizona for a little Cactus League Krug Show road trip. Thanks to our brand new sponsors for sending us there. We'll talk more about them later on in the show. We'll have a little mention of them. And thanks to all of you guys for being here. Quick programming note. I just wanted to apologize to all the people in the chat because I don't like to throw Kev under the bus, but he mislabeled this time. I love Kev.
I've been sitting here for hours.
Yeah, seriously. We all been wasting time because Kev. No, we're just joking about Kev. But yeah, Kev labels the stuff, and he did put it at 8:30, I think, or 8:25, maybe 8:30. I think he put it at 8:30, even though you and I had said we were going to go at 9:15, and here we are. It's roughly 9:30. So there have been people that have been waiting probably since 8:30. So, hey, I just wanted to say that's too long to wait. And that's not cool. And I apologize. I just want to apologize because, I'm fashionably late always, but you guys all know me. That's 5 to 7 to 9 to 12 minutes. If it gets beyond that, something's terribly, terribly wrong.
Yeah.
And in this case, we mislabeled it at 8:30. And when I got in at 9:10, and looked at it, I'm like, oh crap. And you have people going, where's Krug? This is really late. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm sorry that my kid's an idiot. No, I'm just joking. I love Kev. He's great. He's the guy that makes the channel go around. But he blew it tonight. No, I'm just joking. But anyway, we're off and running, and we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. We're brought to you by Sleeper. We're brought to you by Habbas Law, and we'll tell you more about them. But we're off and running, and the title of the stream is Don't Expect Any Big Moves from the 49ers. And Matt Barrows, who I think is one of the better beat writers covering the Niners, does it for The Athletic, says he has been told. Now, that's one thing. It's one thing when it's just like, hey, my guess or my sense of it. Matt's saying he has been told that this is going to be another quiet year in free agency for the 49ers. So I'm really thrilled that we have Dieter here tonight, because Dieter last year, when I was like, hey, they're going for it, Dieter was like, no, they're not going for it. This is their throwaway year. This is a rebuild year. By the way, give it up for Dieter that he's back in the house with us.
There, you got the soundboard going.
Yeah, there you go. Come on. All right, that's much better. Anyway, but you were right last year. You said, hey, they're rebuilding. And it's funny. They were so gutless about it. They never could say anything, be honest about it. And then George Kittle, after they get eliminated in the locker room, is like, well, everybody knows we were rebuilding. $103 million or whatever the Niners had in dead money.
So they could have $110 actually, if you include that.
Yeah, they could have spread it. They could have spread it over 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, whatever. They decided to take the big bullet bite last year and have the huge dead cap. So what do you think of this report that, last year you said they weren't going for it. Now Barrows is basically saying this year don't expect a big free agent haul. Does this surprise you at all?
It doesn't surprise me, but it is. I was going to give them sort of the benefit of the doubt. I hadn't heard anything one way or another on that front, whereas this time last year it was being made plainly obvious to me, for whatever that's worth, from whomever I talked to, that they were taking their medicine. They called it the Rams plan, where We're going to clear the books of bad cash so that we can get back into it. So when you drop this on me, sorry, I didn't read Matt's reporter, and I can't even particularly find it, though I trust the veracity of it all. The first thing I did was I go on the unbelievable and irreplaceable overthecap.com, and specifically the cash spending page. And if you'll take a quick look, or don't leave the page because that would be bad for business, you'll see that the San Francisco 49ers for the 2026 season currently sit on the top of active cash spending, having spent, apparently, very specifically, with their outlays for this year, $299,252,878. Now, if you know anything about Jed York and how he goes about running the San Francisco 49ers, you will note that that number is very, very close to the important number, which is $300 million. And while I was reporting and hearing, like, why won't they spend this year? It feels like they need more mid-tier players because they don't have the young guys. Their old guys are going to get paid, yes, but then they're going to cut a bunch of old guys. Like, it feels like you need to bolster the ranks with more mid-range guys. The chorus that was repeated to me ad nauseum was $300 million, $300 million, $300 million. That this team effectively operates on a salary cap, cash salary cap of $300 million a year. Now, I was okay. That was how it was laid out to me in the past. Given that the 49ers have sold off a good chunk of the team for billions of dollars in cash, given that they took their medicine last year in cash, and given that they still need to fill the ranks for this team, I thought that perhaps they would increase that number for this year. And to be fair, this number is in no way permanent, 299, but it's not coming down in a significant way between now and free agency starting. It just seems to me as if Jed has a number at $300 million. And while there will be, I'll guess off the top of my head, 7 or 8 teams that go over that this year with their cash spending, Jed will not. And they have basically already spent it. So we talk all the time about salary cap space and what they could or couldn't do. It's all about the cash, and Jed York will not allow the San Francisco 49ers to spend more than $300 million on players, even though he has fully enriched himself with not just franchise valuation, but literally selling off pieces of this franchise to the tune of billions of dollars. But, you know, again, Rangers and Leeds need new central defenders or something. So it's $300 million, and we're all just going to have to take it.
Well, the Niners argument, and they'll make this argument, which is that, yeah, even last year, they're always, in their mind, they're always among the top spending teams. Mm-hmm. And last year, they just didn't spend that money in free agency. They spent it on Kittle and Purdy and extensions, and that they actually spent their cash over cap number was actually pretty fat. And that's their argument.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised. Here's my thing. I don't care if you don't want to play ball in the veteran free agent market on any real level, because I think that's the loser market.
Okay.
I think that's the market where you go when you've blown it. When you
Sure.
didn't get enough done in the draft, you go sign other teams' players and pay a premium for them, usually at some apex of their career, and
Right.
they never quite ever live up to it. I mean, football, they said this when football's the dawn of free agency in 1994. I mean, people made very accurate predictions back then, personnel people. I remember seeing interviews where veteran personnel people, Bill Polians of the world, were like, hey, you know what's going to happen here is the player who leaves, it's going to hurt the team that he leaves more than it's going to help the team that he goes to. And that kind of repeat cycle is going to, or that exact equation is going to repeat itself over and over and over and over and over again. So everybody that leaves is going to be worse on the new team for more money, and everybody who, but they're going to hurt the team. The team that they leave is going to be hurt by their departure, but the team that they go to won't be that helped by their arrival. And I understand what he's saying. He's saying different schemes and different impact, and just because you can have an impact in this team for this and this scheme for this coach doesn't mean that you can have the same impact for more money on a different team with arguably a different scheme with other talent, so I get it. I do. I think it makes logical sense, but it's still, you gotta swim in all the waters. My big concern, my big complaint was that they were 26th in the undrafted free agent market. If you don't want to play in the veteran free agent market, I think there are teams that have kind of proven that, hey, if you draft well enough, you probably don't want to be in that market because you're always overpaying. But the undrafted market is where your scouts come into it and who's got the best eye for the talent. And there is no real general cost. It's real. I mean, there is, but it's not. It's a paltry sum in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
And for the Niners to be 26th last year in undrafted free agent spending just kind of showed that they were kind of like across the board belt tightening. And that kind of idiocy is not really it's not, I don't like that. I mean, to me, that is idiocy. That to just be like, we're going to spend a whole lot less. Okay, spend less where it makes sense, but don't spend less in an area where you have been dominating for a relatively a pittance price compared to what it costs to swim in the veteran free agent waters. So I thought the fact that they sat out both veteran free agency and undrafted kind of showed this just kind of like, we will save every nickel possible, and that is our priority. And that's why I would call them on the carpet on it, because I think when that is your priority to that level, that's unhealthy.
I'm with you on that. To be fair, I'm not sure that was a terribly robust UDFA class, and sure. I would argue that this year probably will be the same. Now, if we're talking the 27 class, which I think everyone for the last few years has known is going to be the super loaded one, to where we have teams making a lot of decisions this past trade deadline strictly for the 27 class, not this upcoming one, then we have a real problem, because again, it's not like that is a massive cash expenditure. That's just being tight for, I don't know, prudence sake. This is the reality, though, of having a quarterback that gets paid a tremendous amount of money. And you can say, oh, well, Jimmy Garoppolo had a very high-powered contract. Well, the Niners spent it more then, right? Relative to the cap, the Niners would do $300 million then. And now they're still at $300 million, and yet the quarterback cost has gone up from like $20 million a year. This year it's $47 million for Brock in cash outlay. If I'm reading the charts right, and I very well could not be, but his cap hit is 2024, but his guaranteed salary is 46.9. So this is what happens, and that means that effectively you have a sixth of your overall cash expenditure on one player. Kind of hard to build a team if you're going to hold on to that number. And again, it does seem as if that number, within reason, of course, I mean, there's some up. I think they came in at like 330 last year because they had to sign a bunch of players throughout the season and such. But if they're not willing to put up the cash annually with the best of the best and the teams that are trying to rebuild, right? So like you use a New England as an example last year. Well, New England, of course, they didn't have all the draft picks. Mike Vrabel was taking over for a reason. But what did they do? They went out and they spent money, and it might turn out to be imprudent, but it turned them around from a 4-win team or whatever to a team that won the AFC this past year because they went out and they spent on Milton Williams and they spent on Stephon Diggs, and they filled the coffers, or they filled the roster, to be more specific, with guys who got paid. And yeah, they paid the tax on that, but they got good football players in the meantime. And again, the long-term viability of that is probably fleeting, but if you need to hold yourself over until you get a couple of draft classes in, that's the way you have to do it if competitiveness is the name of the game. For the Niners, they're now trying to hold themselves over on old guys while these young guys come up, and that's why they call it the Rams plan. But I'm not sure the Rams plan really works. It could also be the Cowboys plan, where you have a couple of guys who make all the money, and then you're totally dependent on your draft classes to produce at a hit rate much higher than anything you've ever hit on, and honestly much higher than even the best GMs in the league hit on. And so I feel like, again, to steal your phrasing, you have to be fishing in all waters. And while I'm not out here being like, oh, well, you have to go out and get Dobbs, and you have to go out and get the top guys at every position like everyone wants to do right now in speculation season, you do need to at least be open to the possibility of signing somebody who's not coming in for penny pinching dollars. And you have to be, you can't Farhan this thing, right? You cannot constantly be sifting at the bottom of the barrel and hoping that you're going to get high value players. It just doesn't work that way. There's a reason that their markets would be compressed. Either they're not good enough or they're too injured. And both of those things won't work for the San Francisco 49ers. I just, we'll see what happens. Again, Matt, hearing that, I don't doubt the veracity or the validity of it at all, but actions speak louder than words, and I do want to see them be far more aggressive, whereas last year I knew that their aggression was going to be entirely on getting off of money. This year they need to put some more money into it, and I'm not sure that the man who actually makes the decisions is all too interested in that. I think he thinks that they're done spending money, and it's going to be like that for quite a long time because Brock Purdy has a very large contract, which is effectively guaranteed in every offseason because of rolling option bonuses and such in weird ways that I can't quite understand. But effectively, if he gets through 1 year, he's guaranteed the next. So that means cash, and until that thing is restructured or whatever, they're just going to keep rolling with the old guys and hoping that the young guys can bolster the ranks. And I think we saw last year, as much as successful as last year was in so many ways, they really did need some mid-tier, maybe even lower mid-tier free agents. They needed more guys like Demarcus Robinson across the roster, guys who are coming in at $3, $4, $5 million. So they're not nothing, but they're also not, these high-ticket, everyone wants them kind of guys. They needed more of those guys. They could have used one of those guys at weak side linebacker. They could have used probably another tight end on top of the one that they spent bad money on. They could have used another guard. They could have used a better backup running back so you're not spending a 6th or a 7th round pick, I can't remember which, to get Brian Robinson right before the season starts in a panic move. It's I find the logic flawed, and Larry, you're always saying, like, what would Eddie D do? I'll tell you straight up, he wouldn't do this shit. He wouldn't be capping how much money they can spend for some fiscal prudence argument. He'd be saying, how much money do we make? Okay, put it into the team. That's not what the 49ers are doing, and I think their comeuppance will come on the field because of that, as it did last year.
Yeah. I mean, you make a lot of really, really strong points. I mean, and I understand exactly what you're saying. Eddie D did have it was a different era, and they did have a different everything, really. And he got out just in time. And I want to talk more about Eddie D as well before we get out of here. But I really think, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I really think that the Niners are at a point in time where they've had some success. They've been to multiple Super Bowls. They have this very, very large fan base, locally, nationally, internationally. Right. Nothing they do goes unnoticed. It's very noticed. They're a very high-profile team. I think what's going to happen is they're going to sit out the first 2 days of free agency, and people are going to lose their minds. Yeah. It's going to be substation. It's going to be, what the hell? Jed's a cheap ass. Oh my God. Where's Eddie? This is ridiculous. The substation's poisoning us. Lynch has got to go. I mean, that's what's going to happen. They're not going to sign anybody on March 9th. It's 2 days before, we all know all those things get announced. 2 days before, March 9th, March 10th, March 11th are going to be rough days for the Niners because they're not going to sign anybody, most likely. I think if you said to me, what's my read on Barrow's report, my read is that the Niners are going to do Green Bay style free agency, which is they're going to try to sit it out largely, and they're going to hand pick a couple of guys that they really feel like they need, and they're going to target, and they're going to go sign those guys, 2 or 3 guys. And I don't think it's going to be big dollars. I think it's going to be moderate dollars. And then people are going to lose their S about the substation and Jed and Lynch. And I just get ready for lots of aggressive attacks on Lynch and Jed and the substation. And I just think it's coming. Because I do think the Niners are going to the worst deals are done on those first couple of days of free agency. I think they've learned their lesson from the Hargrave thing. I don't think they're going to go a big name guy. I think they're going to have a couple strategic signings, but I think they're going to be more like, day 2, day 3, day 4 in that range. And by that point, the articles will be done. The live streams will be hosted, and everybody will have, gotten their pound of flesh. That's my guess is Niner Nation meltdown, not the website, but Niner Empire meltdown across the board on March 9th through 12th.
Yeah, that's probably right, because again, it's not ridiculous, even though everyone was telling me I was wrong last year.
Right. Because it did seem ridiculous because they had so many players in the twilight of Hall of Fame careers. It seemed like a very peculiar time to take a step back. Yeah,
but the idea is you took your medicine and now the infection is gone, so you can go back and live your life. And
let me ask you this. Do you think they took their medicine because they looked at that schedule and said, we can take our medicine, win a bunch of games, and tell everybody we're maintaining our standard while we basically just beat up on an easy schedule? We'll get beat bad in the playoffs late in the year. We know that's coming, but who cares? Yeah. We'll just do that this way. I mean, I kind of feel like they may have known what was coming start to finish.
I mean, maybe. I think that it'd be naive to say that isn't part of it, that, it makes it a little bit easier. Maybe that leads them to get rid of a Leonard Floyd, who, again, by the way, like all the moves that they made last year in a vacuum, if you were just say like, oh, you're cutting Leonard Floyd, it's like, okay, well, what did Leonard Floyd really provide for $10 million?
Sacks.
Yeah,
just
I mean,
sacks.
And they were a lot of coverage sacks. I mean, he wasn't like winning passer. So paying him $10 million a year in a vacuum, you're like, that's ridiculous. Okay, that's fine. You can cut him. We got to run a business here. But when you just stack them all up, and then the only guys who are coming in are special teamers and Luke Farrell, it's like, hey, I'm not so sure that this is actually a cogent plan for winning football games. And again, I guess you can look at the schedule and say we got it. I would like to think that the Niners, it'd be naive of me to say that isn't part of the calculus. At the same time, I don't want to think that the San Francisco 49ers are naive enough to think that the NFL is so static that even the schedule as it was played out, right, and they knew their opponents, that they could think, oh, well, all of those teams will be as bad as they were. Like, this is the easiest thing anyone's ever seen. Like, it's just never how it works. Even when we talked about them having legitimately, according to the numbers we had at the time in May of 25, like the easiest schedule in the last 20 years of the NFL, it turned out to be like a low middle end schedule. So was it? Yeah, I'm not saying that they didn't have somewhat of a cupcake walk, but it didn't turn out to be like the Patriots schedule, which was in fact like the easiest in the last 20 years because of the opponents that they had. Like the NFL isn't one for cupcake walks. Like everything kind of comes back to the middle in the NFL. It's just, again, a frustration on the San Francisco 49ers do an exceptional job, probably to their detriment, of managing their salary cap. They never put themselves in a position where they're stuck with somebody. They can always wiggle out of things because they roll a bunch of money over every year, because they extend and prolong contracts of their key players, because, well, in this past year's case, they didn't add anybody when they dropped everybody down. Because they did take that medicine. And frankly, it was going to come one way or another. You don't want to end up like the Saints, where now you have 4 or 5 years of serious downturn, as opposed to, in theory, 1, which turned out to be a 12-win season. But if the Niners want to be cheap, they can make the argument, oh, well, we're not cheap. But they're cheap by their standards. And I keep coming back to the Giants for some reason. Baseball's on the mind, and maybe I'm just excited for your spring training trip. But, like, the Giants spend 12th. They have the 12th highest payroll in baseball, but they bring in more money than all but 2 teams. So, yeah, they're not technically being cheap compared to the actual cheap operations, but how much of what they bring in are they putting on the field? And I want to see a commitment from any owner, because these sports teams, while not technically a public entity, are part of the public trust. I want to see the owner fully invested in that. I don't want them taking money off the top to go spend on something else. I have no interest in that, be that real estate or soccer teams or whatever. And it just doesn't seem as if that's the full commitment of the San Francisco 49ers right now. 49ers Enterprises is bigger than the 49ers, but those other things don't exist without the 49ers and without the rising tide of the NFL lifting all ships and without being one of the premier brands in all of sports in the world. And again, to nickel and dime and to act like you're just a regular team when you're the San Francisco 49ers is unbecoming of ownership. And again, it's so egregious in its stewardship, failed stewardship of the team, to not spend what you can on the team, that I can't commit fully to the belief that they won't actually do it. And again, it is always a fool's errand to try to be successful in free agency. Just look at the Javon Hargrave contract. Go down the line of all the failed free agent signings. But there are good ones to be had, and this team needs, as you and I have laid out a dozen times now, like a dozen things this offseason, and the idea that that can all be found at the bottom of the barrel and through the draft is fanciful at best and naive at worst. And if the limitation is strictly how much cash they're allowed to spend, that's not a limitation that stands up to scruff with me, because I know for a fact that they can spend more. They just choose not to. Again, I don't think anyone should feel comfortable with that, and it's terrible stewardship of, again, a premier brand. And if you maintain that long enough, it will no longer be a premier brand.
Let's make a guess, because we can talk about what we would do, but most people cover the team. They just kind of want to know what the team's going to do.
Of course. So
let's come up with three names. You go first, and I'll go second. Three names of free agents that if you had to bet everything that you own that these guys would be Niners at the end of the free agent signing period, who would you bet that they will go get? It's not who we would go get. It's who will they pursue.
Man, somebody like an EJ Speed, weak side linebacker. You can get him on the cheap. He's played good snaps, kind of the third guy for the Houston Texans. He feels like a pretty good option for them. I'm just trying to think of, bottom barrel running back free agents so that they can pretend. I mean, like, I don't want to be so reactive and be like, oh, they'll just bring back Patrick Taylor. But like, wouldn't that be exactly what this team would do? Just bring back Patrick Taylor instead of spending the 8 or 9 or 12 million. I know, but like, yeah. He knows the system. Well, he knows that he's not good at running the system either. Like, again, there's so many spots where if you can just allocate $5 to $10 million, right, which is not going to mess up your salary cap in the least bit. It is merely a cash expenditure. Short-term deal, $5 to $10 million per player. If you can just slot 3 or 4 of those guys in, it makes a world of difference. Now you are not totally dependent on the draft. Now you're not throwing out guys that you straight up do not trust in the way that they didn't trust D. Winters last year. They tried to do anything but start with D. Winters, and then they get to camp and they're like, oh, D. Winters is incredible. He's great. And then at the end of the season, they're like, oh, that guy we grabbed off the street? We like him more than D. Winters. So how about this? Eric Kendricks. I'd bet he's coming back. And a third option. Let's go with like Ben Barch. Another bite at the apple with old Ben Barch.
So you're going with just re-signings. They're going to re-sign Barch. They're going to re-sign. I mean,
if I had to bet my life savings on what it is they're doing, yeah, I'm going to go towards them doing what is comfortable and cheap, right? And I hope to be proven wrong on that, because a successful football team would not do that.
Yeah, I'll go with. I definitely could see them going for like a Cole Kmet. It just seems like a tight end who's going to be cut by the Bears, and then he won't apply to the formula and the compensatory formula. I could see Cole Kmet. Just kind of an underwhelming. He's pretty good blocker, decent. Understands everything, but not great at anything. He's just kind of a middle of the road guy. I could see that. Cole Kmet just seems like a 49er.
There's a couple. I mean, I'm just going through my list of guys. Like somebody like Foster Moreau at tight end, where you can just get him for league minimum in effect. Like, you did your service, it's 2 or 3 million. It's kind of mostly funny money, but he's a nice all around player. He can give you a little blocking, give you a little catching. You probably shouldn't have him on the field for more than 10, 15 plays a game, but like that feels like something they would do. Whereas like a Charlie Kohler, which was, my grand option because, well, heaven forbid they spend the $7 million it would cost. But like Isaiah Likely's off the board now. Like Isaiah Likely's anybody, if Barros is correct and his source is correct, anybody who's going to make 10 million or more in a season is off the board. And frankly, if we look at last year, we're talking like a peak of 7 or 8 a year. And that would be in year one with a quick taper. So I'm not even sure if Kohler will fit that, given that a lot of people have reached out to me being like, love the Kohler thing. I think he's going to have a good market. I mean, again, I'm not betting on this, but like there are good options at this low, well, not good options, but there are usable options at this low level. Like I like Dylan Parham, the left guard for the Raiders. I think that you can, maybe get a Lamade Zacchaeus on a reasonable deal. He's a good wide receiver. Logan Hall, I mentioned on the last stream, I like him at D tackle. I don't think he's going to cost all that much. You can bring in like a Dane Belton or an Andre Sisco at safety. There's a lot of good linebackers. I'll say this, like there's no reason to be shopping anywhere but Aldi's or Gross Out for outside linebackers this year, because there's a lot of like solid quality, cheap outside linebackers. And I think the draft actually has a few of them as well. I'm not deep into that yet, but like Willie Gay, Christian Harris, Troy Anderson, EJ Speed, like any of those guys will work if you're just looking for somebody who can give a little push to D Winters and take over the role. If not, but again, this is where we're at. We're talking about guys who aren't coming in and are clearly going to be the starter because they have that pedigree. We're talking about a bunch of guys, if this price range is correct, where you're coming in and you're competing for a starting spot with perhaps players that shouldn't be starting in the NFL. I don't love it.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be like we're smarter than you kinds of signings. You know what I mean? Like I'll give you one that I could see them going for, because they want to take somebody away from Seattle. They have no receivers or linebackers, so they got to be open minded to all them. Derek Young, seems like such a Niner addition. You're taking him from Seattle. He's probably just a special teamer, really, but he's got some potential. He's big, strong, fast. You probably liked him in the draft process. You'll hear Kyle use that phrase a lot. We liked him in the draft, but we really liked him in the draft.
Yeah.
He's been a special teamer. You don't have to, cost much. They can no longer afford him. You know what I mean?
I guess. I mean, he had 2 catches last year.
I know. Yeah. But I mean, that's the kind of underwhelming type pickup, and you're going to be sit there and go, what? Derek Young?
You should be taking away Josh
Seattle.
Jobe or Kobe Bryant or Love or I'm not a Woolen guy. I know you are, but like him, you could take away so many. Mafe. You could take away like a legitimate starter from the Seattle Seahawks, but then you're going to come in and it's like, well, they were the only special teams better than us. So you have Derek Young now.
We have Derek Young, and he's big, and he's going to be a backup special teamer, and it's like, Jesus, really? Okay, so
Brant Boyer must be like a pig in shit right now, because the San Francisco 49ers, they're like, the only thing we buy now are special teamers.
Special teamers, only thing we can afford. So I would say Derek Young is going to be one. I'll go Kirk Cousins, too. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be cut, and he'll have options to start, but they're going to be bad options to start, and his family doesn't want him to get killed, and so he'll come to the Niners as the backup to cash a check, and I'm not against it, but I do think that's another name that I could definitely see coming to the 49ers. So those are the ones that readily apparent. Okay, a couple other things that I want to get to. One, Barrows also said that he did suggest the Niners, and he's done this a couple times, that the trade market's going to be too much for the Niners to withstand, and they're not going to keep Mac Jones, that they're going to trade him. He's been consistent throughout the offseason thus far that this is going to happen. I kind of agree with him. Not that I think the Niners want to trade Mac Jones. I think they don't want to trade Mac Jones. But I think they're going to look at their team and just go, oh, my God, we need – I mean, they need so much more than they have dollars to spend and draft picks to make that they're going to
So-
look at Jones and go, oh, wait a second. We can get, a player and a pick. Let's do it. We get a player that we like. We fill that need. We get a pick. We fill another need. And now we're, it's less money and so on and so forth. Who do you think are if you had to say a team or two, who's the team or two that you think ultimately makes the biggest play for Jones?
I mean, to be very clear, Larry, I don't think that Mac Jones is getting traded. I've heard nothing in regards to teams valuing him. Meanwhile, I can't go 45 minutes without somebody being like talking about Jacoby Brissett on my phone these past couple of weeks.
Really? In what context?
In that teams are going to be looking for somebody to kind of fill that bridge quarterback role, like for a year or two.
The Raiders with Mendoza may.
Well, no, Mendoza. The expectation is that Mendoza starts right away. Plus, they already have Geno under contract. If they wanted to,
They're going to cut him though.
Well, they don't have to, right? They have the flexibility to not. They will, and Mendoza will start day one. But like, so I have my list of the quarterback carousel. I don't think he goes anywhere, and I think that the wild card that not a lot of people, at least in the Niners space, are talking about, but everyone in the external space is talking about, is Derek Carr, who took a year off and has made it pretty clear that he's willing to come back if he can get a starter job. And I think we talk about desperate teams.
Yeah, I mean, he really sucks.
Yes, well, and
I know what you're saying.
But there's the same argument that can be made for Mac Jones. I want to be clear about this. I'm not saying that I'm not saying it's incorrect to believe that the marketplace might find itself in a place where Mac Jones becomes the go-to commodity. My stance is pretty clearly, if I don't hear something by like this time next week about where Mac Jones is going, he ain't going anywhere. Because it is nothing but rumor and speculation, and these teams have to have a damn plan about what they're going to do at quarterback so that they can start going through, steps 1, 2, and 3 so that they can pivot to something else. I think the dominoes are going to start falling here, and I just don't see Mac Jones being lined up. And again, it could be fully a fault of my own reporting and the conversations that I'm having, but I like to think I cast a pretty wide net. And, I don't out people, and I don't try to do myself as some newsbreaker or anything. I just like to have a good read so I can pretend like I'm reading the tea leaves when, in fact, I've had a pretty good feel about this for the last 3 or 4 months, and I can come across as smarter than I actually am. Joe Flacco, Jacoby Brissett, Derek Carr, and Jimmy Garoppolo are getting more love right now when it comes to rumors and innuendo and team planning from third-party and second-party sources than anything I've heard about Mac Jones. Now, to answer your actual question.
Why do you think that is? I think that's because the Niners have put a high price on Mac Jones.
I think that's 100% part of it. I don't think
anybody's going to come knocking today, but they will come knocking.
I think you have to pay him twice, and I think that there's a lot of options that you don't have to pay twice with draft picks and a new contract, right? So if you're going to give up a good player or a second-round pick, and the Niners are currently asking for both, if you're going to give up, and they'll come down to like either one of those. I think ultimately you ask for a lot, hope someone bites, and then you take one or the other. Okay, so now you've given up a second-round pick, and I believe that the express statement is a top 50 pick. Or you've given up a good player. Well, now Mac Jones is your quarterback, so now you're kind of pot committed, and Mac Jones comes in and says like, hey, how about a new deal? Like, I don't want to be your starting quarterback for a year on this paltry deal. But let's not forget, Mac Jones got a paltry deal for a reason. And everyone goes, oh, well, Sam Darnold just won the Super Bowl, so Kyle Shanahan could do no wrong. Well, Sam Darnold also went to a couple spots in between. And Mac Jones did do very, very well for the San Francisco 49ers this year. But if you notice, like in Coach of the Year voting, I know Niners fans got upset about this. Why did Kyle Shanahan not even come close, really, in Coach of the Year voting? It's because he's perceived as a bona fide and that he operates on a higher plane than everyone else. And I've told you and the audience this a million times. You talk about Kyle Shanahan with other coaches, and they like speak in hushed tones of his genius. And I know that Niners fans don't want to hear that, but like they really do think that he's a cut above. There's a couple of guys like that. And I think that if you are a bad team that needs a bridge quarterback, and by definition, if you need a bridge quarterback, you're a bad team, you're thinking to yourself, well, Kyle can get that out of Mac Jones, whatever that was. Let's not pretend it was like Pro Bowl caliber or anything. Kyle can get that. How are we going to do that? And then the one team that you can maybe make the argument of, well, Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings could think, oh, I can do that too. The problem is that while Kevin O'Connell does come from the Sean McVay outside zone scheme stuff, they run a totally different pass offense. Mac Jones is good at the Jimmy Garoppolo style. Slants over the middle, everything in front of him. He's tough as nails. He stands in the pocket. That's great. He is statistically the worst deep ball thrower in the last 5 years in the NFL. And Kevin O'Connell's offense is running it off of tackle and bombing that thing deep with his great wide receivers. They don't run a lot of slants. They don't run a lot of short routes. The yak, it's not really a thing unless someone gets beat one-on-one outside the numbers. I don't think he fits their offense. I know a couple of people around the league who it's like, yeah, it doesn't fit at all. I can't imagine they would go that way. I can't say that it won't happen. It just doesn't seem like it will. So now we're looking at the Jets, the Colts, the Dolphins, the Falcons, the Cardinals, and the Steelers. I think the Steelers are going to stick with Rodgers. I think the Cardinals are in just such a weird spot because they got to get off of Kyler first. And then it's like, well, what do? You already have Brissett. He's being talked about like he's going to be somebody's savior. By the way, Brissett to the Jets feels very likely because of the Frank Reich connection back in the day. And you want to talk about a gap year, the 2026 New York Jets. The Colts and Daniel Jones seem like they're going to get something done. The Dolphins are an interesting spot. They do have Bobby Slowick, but Bobby Slowick wasn't around with Mac. I'm not sure what Bobby Slowick's opinion was when they were talking draft with Mac Jones back in the day. So that is a bit of a wild card. But Malik Willis, Jeff Hafley, they're both coming from Green Bay. That could work out there, but they have to get off of Tua, which is easier said than done, because I don't know if you could just straight up cut them. You're going to try to trade them to somebody. The Falcons are in a weird spot. My pick on the Falcons is they stick with Penix for a year, but they bring in Joe Flacco, who's worked with Stefanski in Cleveland. They bring in Flacco to cover the first 7, 8, 9 games of the year so that they can institute the offense. And I think that if the Vikings are looking for somebody to give a push to J.J. McCarthy, which they should absolutely be doing, I'm not sure they wouldn't go with Derek Carr over Mac Jones because, again, Mac is the worst deep ball thrower in football, and the Shanahan shine might actually go against him here because Sam Darnold, right? The knock on Sam Darnold was, oh, well, he's got this big arm, but he doesn't know how to harness it yet. He doesn't know how to harness all of this athletic ability. That's the opposite with Mac Jones. He doesn't have the athletic ability. The whole point is his brain. And so he gets into a system with Kyle Shanahan where he can just run the offense. Okay, but then you're going to need the athletic ability on the back end because you don't have Kyle Shanahan's brain. So it's kind of an apples and oranges comparison, even though they both got the Shanahan bump. I think it works against him. I don't think he goes anywhere, and I think that there's enough mediocre options that no one's going to pay the top dollar that Jones or the 49ers want to bring in what is objectively another mediocre option.
It just seems like this is their ticket to getting what they need, though. And
sure.
There is no other ticket. So, and it's like how
there's a Rolling Stones songs about that though, Larry. Like you can't always get what you want.
Right, you get what you need, but you know what? They need more players.
Yep.
And there's no real advantage to having a backup quarterback as good as Mac Jones.
I'm not arguing that. I think that's
you don't have a door, you don't have a roof, you don't have. It's a luxury. It's a luxury that they can't afford. I mean, I know they can't afford it. They if they don't know it now, they'll know it before the end of this offseason.
But how low are they willing to go? I mean, again, it feels like a lot of wish casting in that this marketplace is going to develop. And again, like I'm just not seeing, and I could look like a total ass.
Well,
in
almost
2 days.
all the quarterbacks that you're giving to these other teams are not as good as Mac Jones. I mean,
I'm not sure that's the case, and I'm certainly sure that
Joe Flacco is not as good as Mac Jones.
You mean Pro Bowl games participant Joe Flacco? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
but like,
I mean, Tua's not as good as Joe Flacco.
I agree.
Not as good
you
as,
might have noticed
Mac
that
Jones.
I didn't mention Tua. Like, I don't know what they do with Tua.
Almost all those guys are. Jones completed 85% of his passes his last start and had went 5-3 and looked pretty good. I don't know. We'll see. That there isn't going to be a market for him. I mean, I
Not
think
at the price points.
I think you could argue that the Niners won't want to trade him, but I can't argue that they wouldn't be a market. I think there would definitely be a market. They may look away from that market and decide that, season insurance, because that's what he was this year, or
of course,
quarterback insurance is more valuable.
It's very expensive in California
than what they can get back. They may make that determination, but I don't think he's going to be here because there's nobody who wants him, because everybody's going with other guys, because most of the other guys that you mentioned, he's better than. So yes, I hear what you're saying.
But is he worth the cost to those teams? That's the thing. Those other guys can be gotten on the cheap or with just ease.
We don't know what the cost is. I mean, that's the other thing.
That's not entirely true. So, like, how do I know? And I can speak with certainty. Certainty. Thank you. That's the word. I do words for a living. How can I speak with certainty about a top 50 in a player, and then we come down from that? But like, how can I speak with that unless somebody has in fact called, and now that's gotten out into the lunchroom that is NFL scouts and coaches and people around the league agents? Like, how can I speak? It's because there is a market. But if you put a price tag on something that is exorbitant, and there's other options that look more or less the same, like, okay, they might not be as good, but they cost a hell of a lot less. Aren't you going to go with that? Like, the marketplace has to be priced correctly as well. If someone's trying to sell you a used car, but the new one, costs just a little bit less, like, even if it's a lesser model, it's not a good analogy, but you know where I'm going with this. Like, the Niners have the price. The other thing, too, is Mac Jones has the price. And if someone's going to put up the second and the player, or even one of the other, that tells Mac Jones and his representatives, like, oh, new contract time. You got us. You need it.
Well, but even so, you're going to have to pay a quarterback at some point. If it's going to be your starting quarterback, you're going to have to pay him starting quarterback dollars at some point.
No one's
he's
committing.
Got 1 year left, so you don't have to do it right away. You've got the luxury of kicking that can into next March if you want. You don't have to do anything,
but that's really tricky. And two,
there's no leverage.
He does, in that he's the starting quarterback of your team for at least a year, and you're in a bridge quarterback situation. So, like, I mean, Justin Fields is a good example of this. He was able to get $22 million last year. He sucks. He you want to talk about someone who Mac Jones is unquestionably better than Justin Fields. But let's not forget, Mac Jones is signed to this paltry little contract because no one wanted him. No one wanted him. No one had any interest in him coming out of New England and going to Jacksonville. And no one had any interest in him out of Jacksonville, even though he was balling out. It was all garbage time, empty calories. And then the Shanahan shine goes against him.
You're refuting the report that the market's going to be robust.
I think that there will be a lot of conversation. I think that everyone's going to go and look at the shelf and see, oh, there's Mac Jones, and people will talk about it, and then they're going to be like, I don't want to pay that much for Mac Jones when I can go get Jacoby Brissett or Derek Carr or Joe Flacco or flipping Jimmy Garoppolo, because if we're going with a bridge quarterback, we might as well make this, this is not a permanent thing. No one's picking Mac Jones to be their actual starter. This is a guy who's filling a need for a short-term thing. These are all shitty teams that are just trying to get to their next quarterback, be it in the draft or in a big-time free agency move. They're just trying to get through the year. And so the idea of having to give up good capital and then pay Mac Jones is not going to be appetizing when you can just get Jacoby Brissett.
I hear you, but I mean, Mac Jones played better with the Niners than Sam Darnold ever did.
Yes, but
Sam Darnold got a nice little deal in Minnesota.
Unquestionably, but Sam Darnold has a lot more talent than Mac Jones. Overt talent.
A lot more talent? I don't know about that.
Well, I mean, come on. You can ask Matt Mayoka. He'll tell you that the best. Listen, I'm not saying that it's terribly logical, but one, now he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and two, that motherfucker could spin it, and he can spin it far.
I don't know about you. I'm watching at practice. I think he looks way better than Sam Darnold did at practice. He's way more accurate.
I really hope that someone finds the clip. I heard so much.
He's so much more accurate.
Bloviation from everybody. And listen, I didn't buy into it because I didn't care. But like even I had to admit, like, oh boy, he can really spin it. But like I just don't care about that stuff. The bloviation about, oh, this guy's such a better quarterback. People talk themselves into that. It's hard to talk yourself into Mac Jones. He's a pudgy fella. This is not a knock on him. He's a beautiful man. He's got great suit taste. But like, he doesn't look the part.
No.
He at all.
But he played so much better. I mean, he looked
But
so
for
good.
Kyle Shanahan, and that I do think is going to be more of a detriment for him because when Sam Darnold shows up, it's now he learned how to be a quarterback, and now all that talent can flourish. He just had bad coaching the whole time. Well, the issue with Mac Jones was, he did get bad coaching, to be fair, but the issue with him was never, it's all this potential just being left to die on the vine. No, it was he's constantly getting all the juice you can squeezed out of him. And by the way, you flip on the tape against the Rams in week 10, and you're like, I'm not so sure about this Mac Jones. It looks great when you're going up against, Atlanta, and you're going up against the Giants, and you get to play the Saints and the Cardinals in weeks 2 and 3. But then you get to kind of, nut crunch time, and you get to week 10 against the Rams in a big game, and you get smoked. And I don't care how many.
But they had nothing. They have a crappy line. They had no efficient running game.
And the Jets are going to be any better? Like, that's the
slowest
thing.
Receivers known to man. I mean, the Niners.
It can't work both ways. All these teams are shitty. They know that, and so you're saying, Mac Jones can't elevate the players around him.
But you're choosing old, rehabilitated, has-beens, and saying that teams are going to prefer them because they are cheaper.
Yes,
but I don't think so. I think when push comes to shove, I don't think all these bad quarterbacks are going to have jobs, and Mac Jones is going to be on the bench with the Niners. I don't think that. I think somebody, that's what you say. Oh yeah, we'll go with this guy. We'll go with that guy. But eventually, you're going to go with the best quarterbacks out there, and he's so much the best quarterback out there behind Mendoza that I would be shocked.
The market clearly thinks that Willis is much better than him. I'm not sure I totally agree with that, but Willis is going to get a pretty penny on the market.
Mac's not on the market, so we won't know that. We won't know what Jones would get in the marketplace. But
we absolutely will, because he's going to ask for a new contract the second he gets traded.
Right, but I mean that's a future thing. I mean, and he doesn't, and the team can say, we'll talk about that next March. So I mean, there's a lot of time that has. We'll see what Malik Willis ultimately makes. I think teams have a higher opinion of Jones than you do. All right,
I'm telling you right now, my opinion of Jones is pretty high. I don't want to trade him for selfish purposes for the 49ers. I'm telling you what I'm ear to the ground hearing, and it doesn't sound like anybody's too hot to trot for Mac Jones. So it's not my opinion on Mac Jones.
Somewhere between that and Barrows is reporting that he's got a robust market is the truth. Okay. So we're going to find out in time. John Lynch is going to speak tomorrow at the Combine. What would you want to ask him?
How much money can you spend this year?
Will that be asked?
I would sure hope so. Probably not. I mean, yeah. And by the way, even if it is asked, you just know how that's answered, right?
We've always been given enough resources.
Oh yeah, we have great ownership, and they'll give us everything that we need. Yeah, sure. That's what I heard from Buster. I asked Buster point blank, this offseason, like, is ownership giving you the ability to spend up to the luxury tax line or beyond it? Oh, ownership has always given me whatever we need. Meanwhile, they're like 12 million under.
Shut up.
Yeah,
that's like, say, shut up, Buster.
Yeah, I don't need it. That's what happens. You've been cucked into the belief that you actually don't need the money to make your team better. No. This is for the best being poor, or relatively poor.
And let's just, come on. In the NFL, it's capped. Okay, there's a cap sport, so that means there's a ceiling there. It also means there's a floor, and everybody sits basically within there. It's just debating how you're going to spend the money allocated. In baseball, the Giants bought their franchise for $100 million. It's worth $5.8 billion, and it's growing at a rate that is greater than the sum of their initial investment annually. They could take their annual investment, and it's growing by more than their annual investment every single year that they own the team.
Wait, listen, you and I could go for hours on this. It's a travesty. It's a sham. It's a mockery. It's a travesty-mockery. And they just need to go win baseball games so I don't have to think about it. By the way, I'm reading the Barrows article. There's a lot of coulds. The word could is getting a lot of work in this article about this marketplace that Mac Jones has, apparently. Could.
Right. But he's suggesting that it's robust. You're suggesting that it's non-existent. We're going to find out.
Yeah, we will. We will absolutely. We will find out how good my sources are real fast.
But the other part of Barrows' thing that wasn't iffy is he said he's been told that the Niners are going to be having another quiet year in free agency. So that's what he says he's been told.
I believe that because, again, the path of least resistance for the San Francisco 49ers is to not stick your neck out there as an organization and not spend willy-nilly. And if you get away with it for 1 year like they just did, why wouldn't you try it again? Which is not good logic. Again, what is the goal here? To put together the best possible football team? And again, with the salary cap's there to help them in a way because they can't go crazy about it, right? If they did have this zeal to constantly put the best team on the field, they would spend themselves to a point of oblivion, and then they would have a real dark winter whenever all those contracts came to pass in terms of the lack of ability of those players, superseding their costs. So then you get a Saints situation. The Saints kicked the can down the road for like 10 years, and they're not going to compete for the playoffs for like 10 years because of that. So the cap is helpful in the sense of, no, you can't just go out there and flash cash around and go crazy and spend to your heart's content, even if you do have the money. It limits you, and so you have to be prudent about where you spend it. But if you're not willing to put the cash on the table, it is a fundamental thing. How can you spend money you're not willing to spend? So that's my frustration, and I would hope that, again, I know what the answer would be. Ownership is always behind us, and we have a lot of very good players that we love, and, we spent some good money, and I don't know why everyone thinks we're being cheap. We spent good money last year. Yeah, on 4 dudes. Not exactly a football team. And then you look at your roster and you go, man, free agency could have helped this thing a little bit.
You spent $51 million total in free agency. The Patriots spent $380.
Yeah.
So,
which, again, there's a middle ground to be found there. But it conspicuously keeps ending up where you're spending between like 300 and 315 million year after year. And at one point that was awesome. At one point that was tops of the league, right? And now it's not, and you haven't adjusted to it. That's an issue for me because it's not as if the money has gotten any less. The revenues are no less. They're more. So, that would be my big question. The second big one is, and this is kind of the big fundamental one. I'm not sure John Lynch can answer it, but like, what kind of defense does Raheem Morris want to run? Like, if Raheem had his druthers, which I'm sure he'll get a pretty strong save, maybe not Robert Saleh level save from last year, but like, if Raheem had his druthers, what's the 49ers defense going to look like? Because that would be very informative for anyone trying to figure out what the 49ers are going to do this offseason, cash or no cash. Like, are they going to be a 5-man front ubiquitously? Well, that changes the paradigm a little bit. Are they going to be running the same sort of cover 3 stuff? Are they a 2-shell at all times team like a Mike McDonald Seahawks? Like, what is it that Raheem wants to do? And obviously there's no concrete answer to that, but even in the reading between the lines aspect, we might be able to glean something that would give us a better idea of what the 49ers should be valuing on that side of the ball this offseason.
I'd like to ask Lynch, why is it that they continuously throughout their tenure here find themselves redrafting the same positions? You drafted Solomon Thomas, and then here comes Javon Kinlaw, and you drafted. It's like you keep having to replace. You drafted. Right now, if you said to the most Niner fans or Niner draft people or whatever, hey, what do they need? They'd be like, oh, man, they really need a wide receiver and they really need a defensive end. Well, wait a second. Those are the last 2 number 1 picks were a defensive end and a wide receiver that you're claiming were successful picks. So if they're successful picks, why do you still need a wide receiver? Why do you still need a defensive end who can rush the passer? It's like you keep redrafting you keep missing, and it's like you're doing well saving your bacon with your day 3 drafting. But what's going on with your day 1 and day 2 drafting, and why so many misses? Is it what part of your process is not good at the beginning of the drafts because you're not hitting with the kind of regularity that it's going to take to keep your job or to keep pace with Seattle, the Rams, the best teams in the NFL, and win that 6th Lombardi? So it's like, you can listen to me or you can ignore me, but it doesn't matter. It's like the truth is the truth. And if you don't get it going, and it's not going to be me who's upset. It's going to be Jed that's upset, and then he's going to be firing these guys. So I don't know. I mean, that's what I'd like to know. Like, why is it that you have to keep redrafting the guy? Why are you struggling in round one? Why so many misses in round one? Matt Mayoko has the Niners drafting Zion Young in round one from Missouri at 27. Yeah. I've looked at so many different mock drafts and so many different scenarios, and to me, it seems like he should be almost the favorite for their pick at 27. It's hard to say. I mean, just because like something's your biggest need doesn't mean it has to be your first round pick. If there's not a player there that you think fits the selection, obviously you're not going to say, well, our biggest need's a safety, and so we have to go safety here. It's not the way it works necessarily. But what do you think? I mean, if you said right now, we have the combine starts this week. It's a big fact-finding mission. Then you get the workouts. Then you get all the rumors and everything. We'll have a much better sense of who might be on the Niners, let's say, short list. We might not. They may keep it real, real close to the vest. But who do you think right now would you put on their short list for what they may do at 27?
Well, I think a reason that we consistently see three positions mocked to the 49ers, and that's all. I mean, we're not at any point where anyone could have any idea, so this is all just, our own speculations. But we see wide receiver, defensive end, and offensive tackle consistently mocked because those are the three deepest positions in this draft. Those are the three positions where you're going to have the most top 100 players. So good ones, players that feel almost like they should exceed the pick slot that the Niners will have at 27, good players are going to fall to that spot. Now, you can argue that the Niners need all three of those things, which kind of goes to your point. We could just go, defensive end is a strange one because what do you do with them on first and second down? You have Nick Bosa, you have Mykel Williams. Say what you will about Mykel Williams' pass rushing bag, but the idea with Mykel was always first and second down, he's at end to stop the run, and I think he unequivocally proved that he's a really good run stopper. And then he slides inside on third down to be a speedy, relatively defensive tackle, three technique pass rusher. So now are you drafting someone to just be a third down edge rusher and kind of replace a Bryce Huff, who's owed like $17 million or something, is probably going to get cut immediately on March 9th? Like that seems like
just because you need a guy on third down doesn't mean that guy has to be a third down specialist.
No, that's true, but there's only two defensive end jobs. And now you're using a really valuable commodity to help improve your team on somebody who, yes, I think you can go Messidor. I think you can go Young. I think there's a lot, I'm not a big Cassius Howell guy, but like you can even talk me into that. Like there's a lot of good options at 27 at defensive end. But again, what's the bang for your buck here?
What's the most pressing need? I mean, sometimes the Niners will get, and that was my next one, is like, there's always a need that it wasn't a need that is a need. And there's always a need that we think's a need that in their minds isn't a need.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. This year, I kind of think it's offensive tackle. They love what they got out of Austin Pleasance. They love McKivitz. And Trent Williams is telling them that he can play for the next 2 or 3 years. So even though we are all like, they need an offensive tackle, I think that's the need that they internally don't think they have. I mean, I know that they have to find the eventual replacement for Trent, but I don't think it's coming. I don't think it's a priority. I think it's like way, way down the list. And I think a lot of people think, oh, yep, the Niners need a tackle. And that'd be my guess. My guess is that they will think that, you know what? We don't need a tackle, or we don't need one in round one. It's not a pressing need. I don't know.
I think that's right. And that's why I've stayed away from guys like Monroe Freeling or, the Blake Miller at Clemson.
Right.
Or I've stayed away from those guys who you can't imagine any circumstance they'd ever play guard. So, there's two kinds of offensive linemen. There's the skinny guys you got to get fat, and then there's the fat guys you got to get skinny. I'm only looking at fat guys you got to get skinny because those guys could play guard for a year or two next to Trent Williams and then you can slide him over when the moment comes. And the way people get so upset about this, and they actually have every right to. It's kind of a head in the sand way of going about things. But the Niners don't draft offensive linemen all that often because they have such a, what they believe, tried and true rubric on what makes a good offensive lineman. Like their scores in-house, their scouting in-house is held up as the gospel. And they put a clear draft grade on every player. This guy is worth round 3. This guy is worth round 4. This is an actual first-round offensive tackle. And very rarely, because offensive tackle in particular is held in such esteem, there's such a premium and a tax on all of them, to the point where you get guys who were 7th-round undrafted free agents. They're going in like the 3rd and the 4th because it only takes one team, and then you get desperate and you go, oh, we like him, we can teach him. Most teams in the NFL have no idea what they're doing on the offensive line. It's why there's been incredible inflation in offensive lineman contracts, even though it never seems to really work out for anybody. Most teams are just guessing. The 49ers, to their credit, are not guessing, but they also have not properly priced into their model what these players cost. So every now and again, they get lucky, like Mike McGlinchey, or you go down the line, oh, well, here's Colton McKivitz. He's in the 5th round. We had him as a 5th round, but that's great, or even better. Dominic Pooney in the 3rd round, that lined up. Like Forster liked him more than others. He was still there in the 3rd. They take him. This is the one year that I can say, having covered the 49ers, that their rubric will not have to be challenged by pick inflation because there are so many good tackles, and I think a lot of really good guards early in this draft as well. Not a good center class as far as I can tell, but a lot of really good guards and a hell of a lot of tackles that you could talk yourself into here as first-round players. I think I had 6 or 7 of them. So if you're at 27, you're not going to have to chase after them. They're going to come to you. I think Caden Proctor at 27 is perfect. I think you can play him at guard immediately, and he might just be a guard for the rest of his career, and then you're going to have a weird time with that 5th-year option. But he is so physically talented. I think he's right there.
You think he's a tackle? I think he's a guard.
I think he's both. That's the beauty. And I think you can play him at guard for a year or two, and then I think he can be an unbelievable tackle. He was the best tackle in the SEC last year. He's, carrying 40 bad pounds, but men that big should not have feet that nimble. And I think, sometimes he gets to the second level, he doesn't find the right work. But when he delivers, my God, does he pack a punch. And again, the footwork is just unbelievable for a man of that size. You slim him down a little bit. You put him at guard for a while. You're not getting around him in the meantime. And his close quarters combat skills are more than good enough to play guard. I think that he would be perfect for them at 27 and just an absolute coup, because if this was any other draft, he would be someone taken in the top 15. But because there are so many good tackles and everybody's got a little bit of a ward on him, we're going to be in a situation where he might fall to 27, and they're going to be in really good shape because you can get what you need now, which is the guard, but really get what you're going to need later. You get 2 bites of the apple with one guy, and there's a couple of players like that in that 27 range that I can go. So while I don't disagree with you that they might talk themselves out of it, they are going to have grades on all these guys, and I think that the grades are going to line up with the reality for the first time in a long time. As for the position that I think that they won't think is much of a pressing need, I think it's going to be defensive end. I think that they'll take a defensive end, but I don't think they're going to put a priority on it. Maybe out of shame. I don't know, but we'll find out. And maybe wide receiver the same way. We'll find out.
My guess is that if it comes down to a late first-round tackle, they're more likely for Caleb Lomu, who's undersized and is got great feet, as opposed to Proctor, who's 6'7", 375.
He's unbelievable, though.
He's just a gigantic man.
Have you watched his halfback highlight tape yet?
Yeah, no, he's athletic, but he's just he just so doesn't look like their guys. And when I watch their practices, they sprint off the ball, and that's the weakness of Proctor is his speed off the ball. That's not what makes him. But
I don't know if I agree with that, but okay.
He's a great athlete. But I don't think that's not what he's known for, his speed off the ball. I think they're gonna. He's just not their kind of guy. I like that kind of an offensive lineman. He's a big mauler.
Well, they should really think about it, considering how they got their asses whooped up front a couple of times this year. Not just Seattle, a couple times this year.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, it's like, are they going to go for some bigger bodies up front? There's other options inside too, as far as center. They're bigger centers. They got a 285, 290 pound, 34-year-old center.
Yeah.
There are centers in this draft that are 3 1/4 with a lot more drive blocking power.
Yep.
Than Brendel. And Brendel's thing is really, he's okay he's smart as a wall, position blocker. He's a technician. He's just he just can't pass block at all. And it's a passing league. And
it got better as the season went on, but he's not. Yeah.
Brock Purdy got smoked in the first play of the game. I mean, and it was Brendel turning the wrong way, and it was like a simple loop inside, and it wasn't a 5 count where it's like, oh my God, he just had no idea that Brock still had the ball. It was like a 3 count. And it's like, should he have gotten rid of the ball? Yeah, but it was a 3 count, and he hadn't got rid of the ball. And you just sat there as the guy Lawrence looped across your face, and then smacked your quarterback in the head. So I don't know about that. We mentioned it last week, but Mac Moten of Bleacher Report today says the Niners could be a landing spot for Najee Harris. And he even throws out an amount. He's got a 1-year deal for $2.9 million. I think of Najee Harris has been around a long time, but he's only 27. But man, he's had a lot of injuries. He's not a halfback. He might not even be a fullback. I don't see this being a fit, other than the Niners love Najee's personality. And I think he would be, unless they see him. I mean, what do you think? Do you think there's a chance they see him as, the future at fullback? Because they really don't have a big back. Guerendo is obviously not trusted. It would be nice if they had a big back, even if it was more of a, blocker utility guy. Is Najee, was thought to be a premier back. He doesn't have that kind of speed. He's never really had it. He's been disappointing, really, in Pittsburgh and Dallas. But he's only 27, and he's a big, strong guy. He's smart. He's competitive. Can he transition from All-American running back to jack of all trades fullback replacement for Juice eventually? I mean, how versatile do you look at Najee Harris as a football player? How versatile can he be?
He doesn't have that bullheaded temperament of a fullback, and I know that Kyle Juszczyk is seen as more of the cerebral chess piece type, and it's not like Najee Harris is missing anything in terms of neurons. He's a very sharp dude. But
can he catch? I mean, because the Niners throw it to their fullback.
I mean, good enough. Like, he's probably equal pass catcher to Juice, but as a lead blocker, he's never had to do that in his life.
I know. I mean, don't you think
he's very good at pass pro? To be fair, he's very good at pass pro.
He has to reinvent himself though, because if he's going to be what he wants to be or was coming out of Bama, his career is probably done.
Yeah, probably. I mean, like, full stop. Yeah, I don't. Maybe he sees the light on fullback. I'm not sure he has the frame for it. He's a little too, I just don't see it. I think that honestly, it's such a specialty position. Ironically, 2 good fullbacks in this draft class. The kid out of Indiana with the Polish last name and dreadlocks,
Jarkowski or whatever.
Yeah, fantastic. I love everything about him. He's a little stiff, but you know what? Like, I'm willing to overlook some stuff because he makes plays. And then the kid out of Michigan's unbelievable. As fullbacks,
the Michigan fullback is legit.
Like, the Michigan fullback's going to get drafted on like early day 3, and people are going to be like, "Oh, fullback," and then he's just going to be unbelievable for 12 years. And maybe it's the Niners who take him. They probably should. But with Harris, listen, let's just remind ourselves who we're dealing with here. The San Francisco 49ers sent a 6th-round draft pick to the Washington Commanders this past year to get Brian Robinson, even though Brian Robinson had not been an effective runner in more than a year for Washington, was like universally known as someone who just ran into the back of his offensive line, had no pop, no wiggle, no nothing, is just a jag, and they're like, oh, we got to have him. So like Najee Harris, who is good at pass pro, is a really sharp dude, and who needs another shot. I'm not. I am. You asked me the question earlier. I feel dumb for not recognizing this now because we were laughing about it on the last stream. Like, Najee Harris is already a 49er. He's in the building. He's talking with Jordan James already. Like, it's done. I know that they got to wait until March 9th. This isn't actual reporting. It's a joke. But, like, that is such a damn lock. And
at what role, though? And what role?
As the backup to Christian McCaffrey on the cheap. And it's a name that looks bigger than the contract is, and they're going to pass. This is plausible deniability. Oh, no, we got a good backup for Christian this year. We got Najee Harris, and we really like what we see from Jordan James. So, like, either of those two guys, they're going to be great, and he's going to be great for our room. And it's just perfect. And they're going to get such wonderful, fantastic. They're going to get Ron Kroichek, who covered at the Chronicle, covered De La Salle when they were at the absolute peak of the heyday with Najee. He's going to be down at camp. They're going to get so much good local newspaper pub. Oh, we're just going to be lapping it up. We're going to be just sitting in the chair, just lapping it up. Oh, Najee's here. We love Najee. Oh, you heard him talk. He's so charming and smart. Oh, it's the most John Lynch signing of all time, and it might as well be fait accompli.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. 1 year, $2.5 million. Lynch might take it out of his own salary to make this happen. Jed, don't even worry about it. I'll pick up the tab on this one.
Will the Niners go back and sign Josh Johnson as well?
Why not? I mean, at this point,
I know, seriously.
I do like Josh. Josh was here for not a terribly long time, but Josh is a great dude.
Oh, he beat the Eagles the week before the Niners went there. I mean, that was unbelievable. Watching him beat the Eagles after watching him lose to the Eagles, I mean, it was unbelievable. It was an incredible.
I'm yelling out that they should put Juice at quarterback and run the wing T in an NFC Championship game. Yelling in the press box. Bob Lang is chastising me for yelling in the press box. Run the wing T. The story was already written. I had more time to just watch the game. Najee Harris, automatic Niner. Get the jersey started up now.
Oh, yeah, it's happening. You can just feel it. You can feel it happening, especially since he's lost a lot of his usefulness.
Totally.
And it's like
no market, coming home.
Yeah, no market at all.
They have turned into the Giants. Remember, I know I keep going back to this, but like the Giants were just getting dudes on like the friends and family discount. It's like, oh, you like Northern California? How would you like to be a Giant, Michael Conforto? So that's what they're doing now.
God, that's so bad, but it's true.
Sean Anaya, I heard that you really liked your time in Oakland. Would you like to release your apartment?
Yeah. Quick shout out to our friends at Sleeper. You already know Sleeper for fantasy football and daily fantasy, but they've also rolled out something new called Team Picks. That's right. Team Picks is built right into the Sleeper app and lets you make simple predictions on game outcomes instead of worrying about player stats or setting up lineups. You're just choosing which team you think is going to win. It's real easy. It's designed to be straightforward and easy to understand, especially if you like following games closely, but you don't want to deal with all those extra complexities of dealing with a lineup and a player and a this and a that and a health and reps and all that. If you're already on Sleeper for fantasy, it's right there waiting for you. And if you're new to Sleeper, Sleeper continues to be an all-in-one platform for following your teams and staying connected to the action. So thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, let's hit our supers here.
Wow,
maybe Dieter
we're cooking today.
Yeah, we're cooking. We're actually gonna do this too. We've got this Habbas Law 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. Thanks to HabbasLaw.com on the web. Thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Basically, if you need a lawyer, you need a good one. And these guys are good attorneys. They're great PI attorneys. They've battled and they're proven track record against insurance companies. They beat insurance companies. Insurance companies trying to deny and this and that and delay and everything. They got a million games they play. These guys uproot them. They don't let them play those games. And so if you want to win, give them a call. 1-800-INJURED. HabbasLaw.com on the web. They will fight to make it right. Thanks to Omar Habbas, Tarek Habbas, and the entire Habbas Law team for being sponsors of the Krug Show. All right, Dieter, my contacts are a little off, so you're going to have to read me here. We got 7 or 8 of them. Here we go.
All right. Noam IL Niner. I have no idea what kind of a currency he sent. That is an interesting one. Would you like to trade Indy Mac for Defoe. Okay, would you like to trade to? I'm just going to translate. Would you like to trade to Indianapolis Mac for Defoe, DeForest Buckner? Can it beat? I mean, probably not.
No, I don't
No.
want. Once again, and this is a thing, and I get this. I understand why people do this because it's a way easier to talk about guys who used to be something, who are no longer something, than to talk about guys who aren't something, but in a few years will be something. So I get that because basically the only guys you'd be talking up would be guys that are no names, and all the guys that have big names, you would be not talking them up. But that's what happens in the NFL. You build a name, you get a reputation, then all of a sudden you're living on that reputation, then that's all you got is that reputation. I saw the Niners play. I was really geared up to see Niners Colts earlier this year, partially because I knew Defoe was coming back.
Yeah.
He played in the game and made no impact at all.
Non-existent.
Didn't look anything like the Defoe of old. He's not Defoe. The Niners should not look back for any of their guys. Greenlaw, I do agree that Kawakami predicted today.
Oh,
the Niners
Tim was on one in that column. He was going for it.
Dude, he predicted Max Crosby.
Yeah.
He predicted, let's see, I think Coach Yak did a little summary, I think, of his predictions. But basically Tim was just all over the map.
He was on tilt.
He was like, "Hey, I'm letting it. I'm emptying the clip."
Well, when the Gus Bradley thing doesn't work out, he's like, I got no more sacred cows to keep
Here it is. Here it is. Tim Kawakami's offseason predictions for the Niners. The Niners will trade for Max Crosby. They will trade Mac Jones for a 2027 third round pick?
I can't see anything.
Oh, third round pick.
Yeah.
And they'll move up to a second round pick potentially.
Okay.
They'll sign Isaiah Likely as a tight end. Okay, he's making that prediction. They'll re-sign Dre Greenlaw. If there's a surprising big name free agent they'll go after, it'll be Tyler Linderbaum.
What?
And they will lose Juwan Jennings but keep Eddie Pinheiro. That was the other one that Matt Barrows said today, was that the Niners don't want to pay Eddie Pinheiro the kind of money that he's probably due, and that they'd be perfectly satisfied going back to like a Matt Gay or some other veteran. Man, talk about a gamble. I mean, the only good thing you had going at the end of the year was Eddie Pinheiro. You're going to get rid of Eddie Pinheiro, gamble that Matt Gay in a bigger sample size is as good as he was in the brief snippet that you saw last year. And then what happens if you start losing games because of the kicker again? I mean, it was seriously. I mean, that could be the end.
Well, I mean, I'll save it for my show tomorrow. But I have a kicker thought where if the Niners are going to do anything this offseason, maybe they just go all the way in on kicker. But yeah, that would be.
Tell me it's not Justin Tucker you're suggesting.
It's not Justin Tucker. Right. There's no room for morality in football, but even we have limits. Okay, here we go. SRT Unk 415. Kyle winning with less is actually turning out to be a bad thing. Now the front office is going cheap with the only goal of being competitive and profitable. I mean, to be fair, they effectively announced as much at the end of season presser. I'm still kind of spinning about we're just trying to make the playoffs and then anything can happen. Oh, sorry. I didn't know it was the Bengals. I thought I covered the 49ers.
You're talking about last year they said that?
No, they said that at the end of this press conference, at the end of this season. The last time we talked to Kyle and John, Kyle dropped, just try to make the playoffs every year and see what happens.
Yeah, I hate that.
It's so bad.
I hate that. That's that
Giants logic.
Well, it's the Billy Bean logic too, which is that it's all in the stars. It's all happenstance. We just need to keep getting there, and then all of a sudden they became fucking weatherman. This guy's hot and they're cold, and this front's coming in, and these are cold, and this is hot. And shut up with your hot and cold. It's not as simple as that. You win in the NFL. Listen to me and listen to me closely. You win in the NFL when you have the best players and the best coaches. Mm-hmm. That's when you win in the NFL. There are no exceptions. It's not about anything else. It's always about that.
Yes. It's
really simple.
Yes, and I think it's a good point. Like, they just think that Kyle gives them a floor that consistently will give them a shot at this thing, and they haven't proven to be totally wrong yet. But I don't know how you can get as close as you did in 19 and 23 and then think to yourself, we're good. Like
Yeah,
you should do stupid. I mean, I guess they did in 24, but you should be like, again, on tilt. You should feel like dumb and reckless, anything to get over the hump. And they just clearly don't feel that way right now, if Matt Barrows is to be believed, and he should always be believed. The Kevin Wood, other than the 21 Rams, has there been a team that won a chip with the fuck them pick strategy? Chiefs, Seahawks, Eagles all seem built on the draft and spending wisely and hitting on free agents.
No, I mean, the team that was like that before was the Commanders when they had Dion and Bruce Smith and all those guys. They tried to like do it just in free agency. It didn't work.
Yeah, that was the early Dan Snyder era when he needed to prove a point.
Or even the Commanders with Peters, where he went out and signed 22 free agents going into the year 2 years ago. I mean, it's, so I don't think that works. I just don't think that works.
To be fair, the Niners have already, I mean, if they won the Super Bowl in 23, it would have been an F them pick situation, seeing as they traded away 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. They had already, I mean, they're really just copying the Rams. They're just not doing it as well.
Yeah, they're not doing it as well.
They didn't get the one. I mean, the Rams only have one, to be fair, but like, I still think they're chasing him there. Bear CRP, no Coke Zero tonight, Kurtenbach. No, we started at 9:15. Keep raising my football IQ. I'll wave at you and Larry next time I head to Bishop Ranch party. Round 1, Zion Young, TJ Parker. I mean, I prefer Zion Young to TJ Parker there. What about you, Larry?
Oh, yeah, definitely. TJ Parker is not a first-round athlete. He's got first-round size and length, and he'll help you, but he's not. Zion Young's a first-round athlete. Zion Young's is like more like an Aldon Smith. TJ Parker is more like a. I'm trying to think who he reminds me of. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Cleve Farrell, to be honest. He's like really strong at the point. He's functional strength. He knows how to play the position. He plays really well off that strong arm move that he has. But that's really a lot. That doesn't have a real advanced bag of moves, and he's kind of an ordinary athlete. I do think he's bigger like Cleve Farrell, though. He's like naturally 260, 270. So he's an edge setter. He's going to be good for somebody, but I don't see special by any stretch.
No, everything he does is kind of rote and slow.
Right.
There's no pop. There's no pop at all. And you know what? I have
for a first round pick, you'd be
right. Like I have an extreme bias towards defensive ends that can hold up at the point of attack. Like nothing frustrates me more than defensive ends who are out there just trying to do TikTok dance moves and get sacks, but then when you want to run to their side, they just get blown to smithereens. Like that pisses me off as a former offensive lineman. Like anyone who can hold up against an outside rush is good in my book, which is probably why I was all about Mikel last year. I don't even see that with TJ Parker.
Mikel's more of a beast against the run. Mikel's more of he's a better athlete. He's a much better athlete. Parker, to me, I don't know. I mean, I haven't studied him, but he looked like he had a little bit of a gut. I mean, somebody who has a little bit of a gut, I know what a little bit of a gut looks like.
Yeah, which me too, buddy. But 6'3", 260.
I don't know about that. He wasn't like ripped or anything. I don't know.
Listen, I think that he'll be an average NFL starter and probably play for 3 or 4 teams and be in the league for 10 years. And you can also find one of those in the 3rd or the 4th round if you're good at this. SRT,
he'll be all right.
Yeah, he'll be fine, but not a first-round pick. Zion Young, by the way, could be the kind of first-round pick that gets everybody fired. He could also be the kind of first-round pick that immediately elevates your team to a level that it wasn't going to get to without him. So,
well, I mean, he could go from week 1, 2, and 3, and they're tilting the line towards Bosa continuously, and then the rest of the year they're tilting the line towards Young continuously. He's got major talent, and he's the kind of guy that if he what I love about Young is he's a JYD kind of personality. He's a plays off kind of a motor, and he's kind of a badass. So it's like when you're a kind of a badass and you got a great motor, man, you're like Chris Jones or something,
Well, it goes both ways with Young because they're having watched every snap that Young's played for Missouri. You would get situations where Zion Young would just decide this series is over and then it was like 2 sacks and a pressure, and the series was in fact over because he just took over. He also would get his motor running so hot, right, that he would do dumb stuff. And he'd run himself out of plays, and he'd pick up 15-yard penalties for like punching a quarterback in the head for no reason. You have to figure out how to keep him cooled. The radiator on the car doesn't work all that well. And that's the kind of stuff that you can get away with in college when you can just physically domineer dudes. But you get into the NFL level and you go up against a real right tackle, somebody who was, the best tackle in their conference in college, and now they're the right tackle for this team. Like, it's not going to fly with this hot motor where you can do some serious damage to your team's run defense, their pass rush structure, and giving up 15 yards a spot. So
did we get that last one, by the way, or did
can we go back 2? I think one more. I think we had one about McClellan. Yes, here we go. This is from Mike. If the 49ers could flip Mack to the Jets for a second-round pick for Chris McClellan, 6 sacks last year as an interior rusher, 6'4",
Missouri?
Yeah, Missouri. 6'4", 320, Jefferson Simmons, Chris Jones type DT. No, he isn't.
No, he's not anywhere close to those guys.
I like
I'll say
McClellan.
this,
He's a good player, but
if you did move Mack to the Jets, is that what the talk is? The guy that I'd like back in a trade, I'd like a pick, but I would like Will McDonald, because to me, Will McDonald is that kind of super speedy, edge busting, speedster. The Niners lack speed on defense, on offense and defense, but they lack speed. And I know they like bigger guys, and I know this guy's closer to 250, but his spin moves, his athleticism, his bend, it's all off the charts. If I could get Will McDonald in a third-round pick for Mac Jones, I'd do it.
I mean, Mizzou had 2 first-round caliber defensive ends on that line. I'm not saying McClellan's a bad player, and he does have
he's okay.
Awesome specs, but he's not. I mean,
No.
Jeffrey Simmons and Chris Jones, those are special players. He's not a special player.
No, I agree. We got this one right here.
Yeah, best OL in the SEC is a hell of a selling point. I agree on. I mean, maybe there might be somebody out there who disagrees with that, but if Monroe Freeling, who is just raw, but has a lot of potential down the line, is getting considered for first-round picks, I'm going to take the guy who I saw do it, even with his warts, which I think are easily correctable, but maybe I'm just being an optimist, which is pretty rare.
People are really liking Monroe Freeling. I didn't see it.
I get what they like because the projectability is off the charts. But at a certain point, I have to have seen you do it. And his 24 tape is god-awful.
Yeah,
so then they're taking the 24 to 25 and extrapolating it, and it's like...
Here's the thing about this, though. These teams where everybody's awesome, it's hard to know why they're winning. Some of the hardest evaluations are to evaluate the guy from USC or Ohio State or Georgia or LSU, because they're all so good that it's, as you just said, you just talked about, a guy just talked about a Missouri defensive tackle. Well, you and I both know that they've got 2 true NFL defensive ends and NFL linebackers. And, it's like, so, that guy maybe was made to look better than he was. Let's just say that.
I mean, and he's still a good player who should get drafted on day 2 or day 3. I just don't think that you prioritize him.
Do we have this one?
Front office help still a possibility. Blink twice if the help is Scott McLaughlin. I'm not going to blink twice, and yes, it is, but it's not happening until after the draft. And it was a conversation. Y'all got to slow down a little bit.
Did you get a lot of bad pub on that, or what?
No, I got no bad pub on that, and frankly, I got it was verified almost immediately by 2 other people, which is always nice when you kind of feel like you're out there, and it's like, oh no, you're fine. But again, I talk about this a lot, especially now where there's this sort of vacuum of real information. A lot of people just talk themselves into this thing that needs to get done. And there's so many hours that are just filled with this wish casting. And then if there's anything that has any tentacles whatsoever that could possibly touch it in the real world, it then verifies this wish casting, and it's like, no, it's not actually in any way related. And so I just think, This is why I keep about 99% of the stuff I know to myself, and I dropped that to 98 for one afternoon, and that was stupid.
No, I mean, seriously, I shared the whole thing on Pearsall and Renardo, and I've had nothing but headaches ever since. We got this one.
Yeah, this is Blood Moon X. Cool name. Going all in on 26 to do nothing. No effing sense. That seems accurate.
Yeah. What do we got this one as well?
Ian Sharp, 7422. Kate Otten at tight end, Dowdle or White at running back, pending Jordan James, Garendo, and Cowing gone.
Who's White? White?
That would be Rashad White.
He's
Rashad
a receiver.
White's
He's
got
a good
no
receiver.
juice. Good receiver, can't pass pro, no juice. Rico Dowdle's not their type of back. It's going to be too expensive.
I like Gainwell as kind of a if you're
Everyone's
going
going to like Gainwell, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean he's a receiver. There's a lot to like there.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah, Stephen 49ers. Yeah, of course. Let me just give up my source. And also, that's not what I said.
What's it say? I can't read that.
Dieter, who is your source for the new GM potentially replacing Lynch? Didn't say that.
Right.
Also, no.
Let's go with the big finish here. And once again, thanks to Habbas Law, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. Thanks to Habbas Law for bringing us sponsorship. Thank you to the Habbas Law team. 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. HabbasLaw.com on the web. All right. Before we get out of here, I thought we could finish with a big finish here. I think it's time. I was talking to some people down at the 49ers earlier this week, and they made a point to me that there's actually been a significant change with the 49ers that nobody's really talking about. And that is that they promoted Al Guido and they transferred the ownership, and it's now Jed's team.
Yes.
So anytime the NFL has meetings where everybody gets one representative, and they have meetings like this, it used to be that one representative was Dr. John York.
Right.
That one representative now is Jed York.
Yeah.
That's a significant change. He runs the team. It's now his team.
Yep.
And Guido has much bigger seat at the table and has much more decision-making power from the people that I'm talking to down there. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it right now, and I really believe this. And I've talked to some people down there who agree with me. So I'm not speaking out of school on this one. It's time for the 49ers to welcome Eddie D and Carmen Policy back to the 49ers.
In what capacity?
In they can do that. I mean, they can basically bring those guys back in. Eddie as just a consultant, but he's just there. He's just the former owner, but instead of kind of like right now, it's like those guys. I know the rivalry was Eddie and Dr. John York, and Eddie loves Jed. Jed loves Eddie. There's no rivalry there. Carmen Policy, I think, especially now in this era where you're going to have to sell yourself, and there may be new practice facility at some point. You're going to have to sell yourself to free agents. I mean, Carmen's the kind of guy that could argue one side of a case, have you utterly convinced, and then just flip over and argue the other side of the case and still have you completely convinced. He's that compelling. He's that powerful. And if you think about it, this guy traded Joe Montana and Charles Haley, and yet he's beloved by Niner fans.
Wow.
He traded away Joe Montana. He traded Charles Haley to the Cowboys. They won Super Bowls, and the Niners stopped winning Super Bowls. And yet
they won a Super Bowl after they traded Joe Montana.
That's true. But we say, Carmen, and it's like nothing but love. And there's nothing but love for Eddie. And I know there's been dialogue about bringing those guys back into the organization officially. And now with Dr. John York out, where, when Jed got more involved, all of a sudden there was the Eddie DeBartolo Hall of Fame. And Eddie, they looked away from Eddie for a number of years because of the Edwin Edwards thing. And now, and there was a real rivalry there between Dr. John York and Eddie DeBartolo, but now that rivalry's gone.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: if you wait until these guys pass, then it just kind of looks like it's like a nominal posthumous, thing. Oh, okay, this guy's was with us, and now that he's no longer with us, we can. But to me, it would be more powerful if the 49ers became whole under Jed and returned Eddie and Carmen to the organization in some capacity, just so that they're all on the same team and that they kind of wash away the non-Eddie years as, where they were warring factions and this and that. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying make him the owner, and I'm not saying because Jed's the owner, but he's in the Hall of Fame. He's beloved, and Carmen is beloved, and they need Carmen to do stuff. I mean, they could use a better sales job. I mean, look at what happened. I mean, what did Carmen do for DeBartolo? He protected.
No, he was. Yeah,
he protected.
He was
DeBartolo.
Unbelievable in the 80s and 90s.
What does Jed not have? He doesn't have that protection. Eddie D never would have stood up at the Super Bowl and talked about the substation and brought up Jerry Rice. Instead, Jed did and looked really bad in the process. And what he needs to do is welcome these two guys back, do it behind the scenes, announce it after it's done, and then do it before they pass, and then have them in a more active role than they're in right now, and take advantage of that positive PR and the love that fans have for them and that the league clearly has for both those guys. So if I were the Niners, I know they've had their time and all the different eras, and it is time to bring Carmen and Eddie officially home and to do it the right way behind the scenes. And to do it right now in their twilight of life, not one of those things 5 years later they get a statue outside the stadium after they're no longer with us. Take advantage. Carmen's eloquent, Eddie's eloquent, they're beloved, and they could serve a role and really be positive. Image is a big part of sales. Image is a big part of free agency. The Niners' image will not be hurt. It will only be enhanced by bringing those guys in.
Does Carmen Policy want to do any of this? He hasn't worked in the NFL since 2004. He's 83 years old. Both of these guys are older than John York, who ain't looking so hot. So,
but I'm not saying big time roles. I'm just saying welcome them in and say these guys are back in. And even if it was ceremonial to a large degree, I think it
can't be anything more than ceremonial. Is my stance. Al Guido, most people don't know. Al Guido runs a hell of an operation. And he's been running it. I know that he has more power now, but he's been running the show for a long time. Jed comes in and out on how active he is in the ownership thing. They've been doing their little soiree into soccer over the last couple of years. So him and Parag are kind of away from things. That's why Al got promoted, because, they're not on top of it the way that they should be on top of it, because they have other things that they find more flashy and interesting these days. And Parag's got to go around the world to take care of those things, as opposed to the thing that actually makes them all of their money.
Well, it's also grown. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that sounds bad for them, but it also is, the whole thing's grown. I mean, what other venue is hosting the Super Bowl and the World Cup in the same calendar year?
So
but not very many. I mean, I'm just saying it's a huge undertaking to do what they've done. And they, there's lots to do. I mean, it's, these are big organizations with lots of roles.
I don't disagree with that. And listen, you want to do some ceremony stuff for Eddie and Carmen, that's great. The way that the Niners seem to be heading, if they don't want to spend any money, they're going to need to be busting out ceremonies like this. And remember, in the old, we could do, again, we just forever Giants this thing, just forever 49ers. And you start with those two, because they're as integral as anybody to the success of the 49ers. And if they're not going to put any more success on the field, we better start reminiscing real fast. And yeah, again, 79 and 83 years old. I don't want to be ageist. I have not talked to either of these men in person or on the phone any time recently. I've talked to both of these men individually, but not any time recently. I don't know. And also, What the hell do they want to do? Be running an NFL team? Like, Ed Policy's 55 years old. That's Carmen's son. He's the president of the Packers now. Like, that guy's 55 years old. That's his kid. I mean, it's old men and old men. So, yeah, absolutely make sure that they get their flowers before they pass, and make sure that that everyone understands how important they are. But the idea that they could be helpful is entirely up to them. And even then, I have a bit of skepticism about how a guy who hasn't been in the league for 20 years could be helpful, and how Eddie would be helpful, and he hasn't been in the league for nearly 40.
One last thought on the way out the door here. I just want to show this graphic. I don't put a lot of credence into this, but I do want to get Dieter's
I'm excited to see something you don't put credence in there.
I know. Well, I don't put a lot of credence in this, and you probably won't either. But I will show it.
Revival over here.
I will show it just for the heck of it.
Here we go.
Do you see it?
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
49er NFL News 24/7.
Oh, you know that's where I get my sourcing.
Are emerging as a primary suitor for Mac Jones, with J.J. McCarthy sidelined.
Yeah, according to Clutch Points.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. You know what? It's not a ridiculous concept, except
that Minnesota would want him.
Again, you just go, oh, well, they need a quarterback, and he's somebody from sort of the Shanahan tree as the head coach. And then again, you just ask like anyone with the Vikings, they're like, nah, no. So
we shall see. The other thing is, there was one rumor. I thought this was one like that, but it wasn't. I thought this was going to say for J.J. McCarthy, because there was a deal like that last week. Would you be at all interested in, let's just say, hey, you're going to get a 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
But you can also get JJ McCarthy. You're going to get a 3rd and a 5th, or you could get a 3rd and JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
Do you have interest in JJ McCarthy, or are you like, you know what, he's not NFL? Because this is a guy I really can't decide on yet, because there are moments where his inaccuracy says to me he's not NFL. But then there's other times, and I'm like, well, wait a second, this guy's showing improvement, and I know how important it is to him. He's a very conscientious, hardworking kid.
Sure.
So I don't know. I mean, do you put J.J. McCarthy in he's absolutely trash, and we don't really comprehend it yet? Or do you think, you know what, he's just bad and young, but give him time?
I mean, they don't have any choice but to really give him some time. But legitimately, I have to ask, what is he good at? Like, what singular, if you go like...
He doesn't throw the out pass with any accuracy.
No.
At all. I mean,
I don't think he sprays
it so wildly that his inaccuracy looks not NFL. Like
I'm with you.
He looks like a guy that, like, these guys have got to be able to put it on the hands. And if it's not on the hands, it's got to be in the catch radius.
Yeah.
Especially against air. This guy against air will throw it into the ground, airmail it by 5 yards, and throw it out of bounds. He's just too inaccurate on the core passes, I think, to be an NFL starter.
And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about with Mac earlier. I mean, that offense is not very conducive for that style of quarterback, where I think he should be throwing it a lot over the middle, and kind of the simple sort of extension of the run game passes, kind of West Coast offensive stuff. I'd actually if you want to give me him on, a minimum contract, I'd be interested in J.J. McCarthy, but that's not what he's on. He's on a 1st-round tender, and that's prohibitive. He won't get his 5th-year option picked up if it goes this way. But again, I repeat, like, what is it that he is good at? I guess you could make the same argument with Mac Jones.
Eye block. He's good at eye block. He's
good at weirding people out. He did go 27-1 in college. Now, he was on some loaded Michigan teams, but I'm not quite sure what it is he's good at, and we'll find out. But again,
I don't think he's NFL.
I think there's just a lot of fun wish casting happening out there. So let me throw some J.J. McCarthy's way and say that it's all going to work out for him.
There you go, J.J. McCarthy. We're down with you. All right.
Yeah.
That's going to do it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Done. We're done with you. Got it.
Oh, did I say down? I meant done.
Yeah. Okay.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Sleeper. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Habbas Law. We're off to Scottsdale on Thursday.
Giddy up.
Back with you tomorrow for for more hijinks. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 6:00 on the radio side, and looking forward to that. We'll be streaming tomorrow night at 7 with the great Raj Melwani from RSF 49ers. And then Thursday morning, we're on the Bird to that's Tuesday. Then Wednesday, we'll have our shows. Thursday morning, we'll be on the Bird to Arizona for some golf, some Giants, and some R&R for a few days. And then we'll be back. So anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Dieter. Thanks to all of you guys. Dieter, I'll give you the final word. Tell people about where you and Jake are with the draft guide for 26. And if people, I've had a lot of people ask me, hey, when am I going to get a glimpse of this?
Yeah.
When can people expect to get their first glimpse of the draft guide for 2026?
To be fair, I literally just saw the mock-up today, so it is
it's
imminent, and it is different this year in a good, more positive, more easily accessible way. So come over and hang out with us on the Dieter and Hutch show, and you can find out firsthand.
Nice. So, is there a printed version of it?
There can be.
There can be. All right. How long is it going to be this year? Do we know?
We currently have more than 400 prospects.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
I know it is. I'm dying. I'm dying. Larry, this is my only reprieve from the prospects and the children. And
let me just tell you this one. There's a guy that I saw this weekend that should be in your book.
Okay.
I watched the HBCU All-Star game.
Yeah.
That was this weekend. And there is a receiver.
Okay.
His name is Mekhi Lovett. And I'm not sure if he's in your book or not, but he is a Miami kid. He's went to high school in Miami. There's a lot of great athletes in Miami, especially
Larry,
inner city Miami.
I covered high school football in South Florida for 4 years. I'm fully aware.
Yeah, so Miami is a hotbed for the greatest athletes in the country.
Yep.
Anyway, this guy is really interesting. He is 6'1", 220, which sounds like kind of a fullback. He's like kind of the size of like Isaac Guerrero. Okay. And he's kind of reminds me of like a bigger, kind of a cross between Terry McLaurin and Delaney Walker. Like he's not really like if he's a receiver, he's a bigger receiver. He's a stronger receiver. So like he might be a tight end. He might not be elusive enough to be a receiver. Might be a running back who's kind of more of a receiving running back. But his name's Mekhi Lovett. Not to be confused with Mackay Lemon from SC, who's awesome.
From Edward Waters University?
Edward Waters University, yes.
Transferred from South Dakota?
He is really, really something, man. This guy has got strong hands,
All right.
and he can run after the catch. And he's just like one of these guys that he kind of looks like Terry McLaurin, except he's 220. He's really, really strong. He's got great, huge hands, strong hands. He plucks the ball with his hands. Anyway, interesting athlete.
I'm watching him right now.
Yeah, Mekhi.
I can kind of see it.
Mekhi Lovett.
That's a thick boy.
He's thick. He's definitely thick. He kind of reminds me of like a receiving fullback.
Yeah,
but I do like him. He's got a little bit of a H-back to him.
On there. And they produce him over at Edward Waters University.
Edward Waters University. And I saw him in this All-Star game. He looked tremendous. I mean, he really did make a lot of plays. Okay. He looked really, really good. So
he's on the board. It's written down. I got him. He's on the board. Thank you. I didn't have enough work already.
That's going to do it for us. For Dieter, I'm Larry. Have a great one. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for.